think the who is important, right? You're turning to someone. Great. You rely on the external validation. But
who am I asking?
Who are you?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Relying on the external validation from.
Welcome back to QR Quoted.
I'm Queen.
And I'm Raquel. And we're your hosts. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us once again on our next episode. We just wanted to let you guys know that QR Quoted is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So all the platforms.
Yes. Anywhere you want to listen, we are there. Or watch, we are there. Mm-hmm. Thank you to everyone who has been listening and watching and supporting. Again, we can't say this enough. We really, really do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's start off the episode with our Word of the Year check-in.
Yeah.
How have we been nourishing and hustling?
So if you didn't listen to our last episode, you should. Mm-hmm. It was all things like New Year's. We talked about New Year's resolutions. We discussed our words of the year that we're doing instead of New Year's resolutions. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get into too many details because you should watch it or listen to it yourself.
Just go watch it. Pause this and go watch that and then come back
to this. You better come back to this.
Yeah.
So each of us came up with a word of the year that we kind of want to live by. It also kind of stemmed from our experiences from 2022. And we looked back on those experiences and decided, hey, what do we want to focus more on? What do we want more of in our life? Thinking about looking ahead, looking at what 2023 is going to bring. Mm-hmm. Also, can you believe 2020 is now 3 years ago? I still feel like it's 2020. It's 2020 part 3.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not, because, man, 2020 was...
I know. It's
a shock.
Yeah. Where has the time gone? You know?
Yeah.
So my word was nourish.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work on nourishing my physical self more by, for example, taking my vitamins, eating more. I don't feed myself enough while I'm at work. Getting out there, getting some more sun, going on walks, playing tennis. I haven't played tennis in a long time and I miss it. So just moving more. Also just listening to my body when I'm sleepy. I actually go to bed. Fun fact, yesterday, it was our first day back from winter break. I fell asleep at 6:30. And then I woke up and actually got ready for bed and then knocked out. And then I kept waking up in the middle of the night because
You threw yourself off.
Yeah, it was kind of rough. So I woke up feeling like a zombie this morning, which seems kind of counterproductive, but yeah, it is what it is. So how have I been nourishing my physical self? I want to go back to winter break. During break, I had a great routine set for myself. I felt like I was eating 3 meals a day. I was drinking enough water. I was really focusing on breakfast, which is the most important meal of the day. I don't care what anyone has to say. Breakfast is the best meal of the day. Did I say I was taking my vitamins? I was taking my vitamins.
During break.
And then yesterday, I went back to school. And Sunday, I was anxious about going back to school. So I haven't taken my vitamins for 3 days now. Today's Tuesday.
So there's always tomorrow.
Yeah, there's always tomorrow. There's always, after we're done recording this, I will take them, I promise.
Yeah.
Make sure I do. Make sure I do.
Where do you keep your vitamins?
Right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need to put them somewhere where you first when you first wake up, you see them boom right in your face, and you're like, oh, vitamins. That's what I do.
I know.
That's what I just started doing. I should say that helps.
I didn't get. My husband got me a
pill box.
The old lady pill container.
Cute.
I'm not using it well. That's my own fault. I need to do better. I need to be better about it. But here's the thing.
Yes. Tell me.
I'm going to show myself grace, and I will adjust, right? I was in this schedule for 2 weeks of my life. It felt like such a long break, which was so nice.
Yeah.
And I got into a nice routine, and then now I have to adjust.
Yep.
Because that schedule has changed, and I have to adjust being back to work with my work schedule. So I'm going to show myself grace. I know I need to focus on some other things, and so I'm going to do that and adjust. And that's okay.
Yes.
What about you? How are you hustling?
Currently, I'm transitioning from that restful break mode to this growing, seems like a never-ending list of work and responsibilities mode, because I started school on Monday. It's only been like day 2, and I already feel like I have lots to do, but I'm being gracious about the shock, and adjusting isn't too unbearable at this moment. Yeah. So I can't complain. I feel pretty good. So that's how I'm hustling right now.
Yeah. You already feel like you are? 2 days in?
I mean, not in the extreme way that I should be, but I think that I'm doing enough right now.
Okay.
Because I just started.
Yeah, but things have already picked up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Feel that.
Yeah.
Well, as long as, again, show yourself grace when you're not. That's the whole point of this is, yes, you have this focus. Mm-hmm. We each have our own focus, and sometimes we'll stray from it, and that's just being human.
Yeah.
And being caught up in other areas of life, because it's not the end-all, be-all, right? I have to do more than just nourish my physical self. But it does impact other things, too. So, yeah. I've had people come up to me since the last episode came out and say, oh, I need to come up with my word of the year. And you know who you are.
That's sweet.
And it just made me so happy. And I was like, yes, do it. Let me know what you come up with.
Yeah.
And if anyone makes any vision boards, tag QR coded. Mm-hmm. We had said in the last episode we would post our vision boards, and we did.
We stuck to our word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're super cute. It's funny because when we posted them, the caption on the post was something along the lines of, like, can you guess whose is whose? And
I mean, if you know our words.
Raquel and I were texting.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we were like, oh, if anyone even knows us slightly.
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
One was very obviously Raquel, and one was very obviously Queen.
Yeah. Even if you didn't know my word was hustle and her word was nourish.
Just the overall vibe of each one was very Queen and Raquel.
Yep.
So if you don't follow us on Instagram, please do. QR coded. That's where you can keep up with everything. Yep. And see some cute posts like that as well. I love vision boards. So the past 2 days, we have a block schedule at school, so I now have officially seen all my kids again in the new year, or my students. And with my freshmen, I did vision boards as a nice, like, back to school activity in the new year.
Nice.
And it was just so fun. I was showing some of them the one that I made, and it was just, they're just so fun. I just love them. I had them write first. I had them journal first. I gave them prompts. And then they took that journal entry and kind of pulled what kind of visuals they wanted to put on their vision board. So, yeah. If you create any vision boards, tag us.
Yes. We want to see them.
At QR Quoted on Instagram. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into today's episode.
We're back to a quote.
Yay. We're back to our mission.
A quote guiding the conversation.
Yes.
Today's quote is from a book.
There we go.
That we're currently reading. So a little funny story about this book. Well, first let me just get into what the book is. I have it right here. This is Alexandra Elle's How We Heal. Let me just get into who Alexandra Elle is. Mm-hmm. She's a writer, and I'm reading this from the author's bio in the back of the book. She is a writer, a wellness educator, and a certified breathwork coach. She teaches workshops and leads retreats centered around writing and self-care, and was host of the popular Hey Girl podcast. She has authored several books and journals, and she's been featured by a wide range of media outlets, including the New York Times, NPR, Good Morning America, ABC News, and more. So this all came to be, us reading this actually, all came to be after I like randomly came across a quote from her. I don't even remember what the quote was. I think it was directly from this book. But I had sent it to Raquel as like a possible, and this was before Christmas, I believe. I sent it to Raquel as a possible quote we could use for one of the episodes. And then I looked her up, and I was super intrigued to know that she was an educator. And I looked her up on Instagram. I read about her, and I found out about the book. And then after digging a little deeper, I followed her on Instagram. And then I remember Raquel, was it a week later maybe?
Just randomly, yeah. Like, it's like I forgot about it.
Reposted something from
her page,
her Instagram. And I remember messaging her. I was like, this is the same author from that quote.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, we have to read the book now.
Yeah, and so we decided we'll have a little book club moment here and read. We're kind of like picking it apart and reading bits and pieces of it.
There's not necessarily like a storyline to it. They're like sections.
Yeah, it's it's kind of like a collection of, I don't know, almost like it feels like an advice column. It's an invitation to heal yourself and reclaim your peace. So we're really enjoying it. There's a lot to learn from here. It's also kind of re-emphasizing some things that we already know, or maybe things that we know deep down. It's kind of like bringing things to light that we care about and are passionate about. And we're really enjoying it. So this quote that Raquel is about to introduce is from chapter 3 of the book, called Reclaiming Your Power. And each chapter includes like smaller sections. And this one is specifically titled Rewriting Your Narrative.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so the quote is, external validation isn't what's going to heal you. It's temporary. Healing is solitary work that can only be done by you.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, going to give you some definitions before we jump in, but external validation is when you're getting feelings of self-worth based on sources outside of yourself. And internal validation is the opposite, and that's getting feelings of self-worth based on what your own opinions of yourself are. So initially, based on the quote and definitions, what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because when I think of rewriting your narrative, right? This is the section that this is coming from. I think of you making decisions that are best for you. I never really would have associated this with any type of external factors playing a role in you rewriting your narrative or healing after you have gone through some type of trauma. So yeah, and in general, I don't think about external and internal validation actively or consciously. I don't even remember the last time it was where I even, reflected on, did I rely on external or internal validation to get through that situation? But as I think about it, one would probably just say, external validation is bad. You need to only rely on internal validation. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think as humans, we do rely on external validation, and maybe that's our go-to. And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing to care about what other people have to say. But I don't think it should dictate what you think of yourself. Personally, I like to focus on the internal validation in hopes that the positive external validation will follow. And then also, and again, I don't consciously do this and think about this, but now that I think about it, I'm thinking that I'm okay, and I try to be okay with that external validation not following, which is hard to do. And there are times when it doesn't feel okay.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Because we're human and we do rely on that validation from other humans or other external factors. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree in the sense that this was something that I didn't really think about outside of reading this quote, and it wasn't until I read this where I took a step back and thought about external and internal validation and the role that it plays into my life. But I think that external validation can only go so far, because at the end of the day, no matter what anyone tells me, if I don't feel 100% in tune or confident with the decision I'm trying to make or the question that I'm posing to that person, if I don't feel 100% in tune with that, then no matter what you tell me, it's not going to make a difference. I need to be sure within myself above all. But I do see the value of it, because if it's something that's particularly hard for me to simply say yes or no to, if I'm like signing up for like a new role or like a position or a program and it's something that's going to change my everyday life, I have a very hard time saying yes to it and seeing how that could work for me. So I need to turn to somebody and ask, like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, do you see this happening for me? Do you think that I'll be a good fit for this role? Like, do you think that I can do this? And that can be like that push that I needed to go ahead and like implement that change and like make that decision. So I definitely see the value of the two.
Is there a but? Because I have a but.
What's your but? You go first.
Well, sorry, bad joke.
What?
But
I wasn't trying to be funny.
I think the who is important, right? You're like, turning to someone. Great, you rely on the external validation, but
who am I asking?
Who are you?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Relying on the external validation from. Who is providing that? That's key.
That's a good point, because actually I really like that, because if I'm asking somebody, right, for that validation, and I've asked them repeatedly for like other things in the past, and they've always kind of just like turned it down. Maybe they don't have like my best interests at heart, and maybe I had been like passive and just thought, oh, they're just protecting me, or they do have my best interests at heart. But I think that the people who do have your best interests at heart, like you know that, you would feel that, and that's why you would turn to the same people or not.
And I think everyone has had experiences where they have looked for external validation from people who they thought had their best interest at heart. Yeah. I know I've done it. Yeah. And, you know, I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's in my nature. I will do that before anything.
That's such a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. I have such a hard time with that when I am, like, let down by the same people. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've done it where I've, you know, thought that someone had my best interest at heart, and I relied on them for that external validation, and maybe they did validate something for me, but it wasn't what I needed.
Maybe that was their way of validating it for you.
True. Yeah, it really depends on how you look at it. Yeah. And you learn from those mistakes that you make. So yeah, external validation is okay and it's normal, but I think it's important to be cautious of who you're looking to and
where you're getting it from.
Yeah, where you're getting it from. And also to approach it with a growth mindset, because it might not always happen. You can look for it and you might not get it. Okay? So if you're not receiving it, instead of letting that get to you and letting it shut you down, think of it as a way to kind of critique yourself, to improve, to reach your goal, to reclaim your peace. You know, it just makes me think of like the obstacles in life we face. Turning to look for external validation to heal from whatever those obstacles are is common, and I've done it, you've done it, we all have done it, and we will continue to do it. But it isn't truly going to heal us or treat that emotional trauma, we'll say. Yeah. we can kind of compare it to a Band-Aid, right? It's a nice temporary thing that will treat something it's not even treating. It's not treating. It's not doing anything. It's just covering it in the moment.
Yeah.
It's covering that physical wound like a Band-Aid would, or that emotional wound. It's a nice supplement. It's nice to have. Don't get me wrong. But the work to heal, truly heal, must come from within. That Band-Aid, the external validation is
just
a
comes
Band-Aid,
right off,
which ties to the quote. The quote is, external validation isn't what's going to heal you. It's temporary. It's just a Band-Aid. That internal validation is going to do the true work to heal.
Definitely. I think that emotional trauma is so drastically different than physical, just besides like the basic like definition of the two words, obviously. But when you're talking about like a physical trauma, you're talking about a wound, right? And if it's cared for and tended for the way that it should be, it will heal, it will go away, right? Maybe it'll leave a scar, might not, but the whole point is that it goes away. Emotional trauma, on the other hand, I feel like it kind of just comes and goes, and it stays within you, and depending on like the severity of it and like how it impacted you, it's a part of your story, and it's an experience, and it's something that you've learned from and grown from, and it remains there. So I mean, for me personally, like when I'm talking about like emotional trauma and something that's really just upset me or hurt me so bad, it is very hard for me to find a way to like heal from it and let go, because I think that sometimes anything can kind of trigger it and cause me to relive it, or maybe just
the memories come back.
Yeah, the memories come back, and the emotions come back with it. It's not like the memories just
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's not like I can just like remember it and be like, okay, it's fine. Like it's not like that for me. So when that happens, I try to not let it impact me the way that it did when it first happened, like with that same magnitude. And once I get there, I feel like I've gotten better with the healing process. So if something happened to me like a year ago and I remember it now, how I respond to it is what makes the difference, is what shows the process of healing. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
You get that. So what would you say your key takeaways from this section of the book?
Yeah. Just a reminder, the section was rewriting your narrative. The chapter was reclaiming your power. So my key takeaway was just the word your, and just knowing that like this is your narrative, it's your power, it's your life. You have the ability to change it, rewrite it, reclaim it, like all that. It's all in your hands, right? So there was another quote that I actually saw that I wanted to mention that kind of sums that all together, and it says that reclaiming our power means holding our fears, pain, hopes, and dreams all at once. So all these puzzle pieces come together to form you, that completed whole puzzle, and how you let each of those pieces dictate your life is what really matters. Like, are you going to let your fear and your pain dictate your life, or are you aimlessly just going to be like in La La Land, like in your dreams and your hopes, and disregard all that? Like, neither is the right answer. You should have like a balance of both, because it took your pain, it took your fear to get to your hope and your dreams, and knowing that, and knowing when to let the pain take over, because sometimes you need to let that just like, you need to have that moment for yourself. You need to grieve, you need to be in that moment of pain to come back stronger and have those moments of hope and dreams.
I think it's also interesting that they all can exist at the same time in your life.
Oh, definitely.
You can be experiencing something painful. You can be facing your fears while also be
hopeful.
Being how do I want to say it? Let me rephrase that. Like, you can be you can be experiencing pain. Again, you can be facing your fears all while trying to achieve your hopes and your goals and your dreams. They can all exist together.
Yeah.
I also think one does not exist without the other. So that's interesting.
Yeah. What was your key takeaway from the section?
I feel like yours was like it dug deep, and then mine kind of, you know, ties it all together with a cute little bow.
I'm a very emotional person, so that makes sense.
The quote that I chose that kind of wrapped everything up for me as a key takeaway was, choosing yourself when no one is cheering for you is a revolutionary act. It's easy to choose yourself when people are cheering you on from the sidelines.
Yeah.
It's easy to hype yourself up when others are also hyping you up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really challenging to do it when it is silent around you.
Yeah.
And, you know, that doesn't mean that because it's silent, no one cares and, you know, your loved ones have given up on you. No.
Mm-hmm.
People are busy, and people have their own obstacles to face in life, and life is busy and life is crazy. So you're not always going to have someone cheering you on from the sidelines. And again, that sounds bad because we both know that we do. We always do. We have our support systems. But you got to be able to do it for yourself. You got to be able to choose yourself and cheer yourself on. It's your narrative. You got to be the one to rewrite it when there's silence around you.
Yeah.
And I was just also thinking about like social media and the external validation that comes with that.
That's
I think
huge.
that's also another reason why we rely on that so much, and why we're so quick to rely on external validation is because social media is just a whole lot of external validation.
Yeah. Those ants on Facebook.
The ants on Facebook hyping you up, yes.
Yeah.
They're lovely, but again, it's temporary. You got to do the work yourself. You have to, and like you said, reclaim your power, which is holding your fears, your pain, your hopes, and dreams all at once. Because no one else is experiencing that. Even the people closest to you who are cheering you on, those sources of external validation, they are not facing those same exact fears as you in the same way. They're not living your dream. It's your dream. So it's just interesting to think about.
I want to touch back on that idea of silence around you. I used to think that the silence was kind of scary and that something was kind of wrong and why is it quiet, like what's going on. Like I used to think something was off on like my end. But the older I get, the more in tune I am, and I guess just like reading even this honestly just made me think back that the silence is nice. Maybe that's what you need sometimes, to really just like hone in on like yourself and like what you need in this moment, and just being okay with that. I also love in this book that it gives you some type of action steps. For example, in this section, she kind of leads you towards journaling, and we both want to do more of that, I think. This planning for this episode kind of felt like journaling. So this is my journaling because I can't do it.
If you all could, maybe try out some journaling to kind of see what you lean on more, external or internal validation, because we didn't think of that enough before this. So again, we just want to thank you all for all of your support and your kind words. We really do appreciate it. Keep watching and listening, and joining the party every other week. I'm Queen.
I'm Raquel.
And this is
QR Coded.